Welcome to Newsmakers. A pastor arrested, a Christian school punished, and an actress clinging to prayer. That and more coming up. Welcome to Newsmakers, a show where we go behind the headlines each week to bring you interviews with pastors, entertainers, politicians, and other notable news figures. On today's Newsmakers, Pastor Matthew Manneke. He scored a major victory recently when it was found that he was arrested improperly at least twice for preaching the gospel outdoors in public. Now, his attorney, Nate Kellum, is joining us today. Nate is an attorney at First Liberty Institute, and he's going to break it all down. Let's welcome Nate to Newsmakers. You've been handling a very interesting case surrounding a Seattle pastor who was arrested a couple of years back for reading the Bible in public. He has now been vindicated. Can you tell us a little bit about this story?
I can. It's really a fitting end to an outrageous situation, Billy. What had happened was the city of Seattle effectively made reading the Bible aloud a crime. And it first occurred on June 24, 2022. I don't know if that date sticks out to you, but that was the date that the U.S. Supreme Court rendered the Dobbs decision. That was a decision that overturned Roe versus Wade. So that there was this huge rally, protest going on in downtown Seattle. And Pastor Manneke thought this would be a perfect opportunity to share the gospel. So he took his Bible and he goes out there to read the Bible. He has very earnest pro-life beliefs, but that was not his purpose. He really just wanted to share the gospel. So he turned to the book of John, chapter 1, verse 1, and started reading. But it was not received well. Some protesters started to crowd in around him, started saying some inflammatory, derogatory things, made him feel uncomfortable. So he moved off. He didn't want a conflict. So he moved off a few feet away to a new spot. But then at that spot, some protester grabbed his Bible and started ripping the pages out of it right in front of him. Undeterred, Pastor Manneke retrieved a second Bible and just resumed his reading. And he was able to do that for a while. But that's when Antifa members got involved. And they became physical. And at that point, he was thinking, well, maybe I should go home. But he was convicted to stay. So he found another spot, and he started reading the book of John again. But regrettably, some other protesters came up, and one knocked him down. Another grabbed his shoe for some reason. They just grabbed his shoe. And then finally, after all those things, the police arrived. They were in the vicinity the whole time, but they didn't intercede until this point. And this is where it becomes the most disappointing. The police did not come to help Pastor Manneke. Rather, they told him he was the problem. And so at that point, they said, you have to leave. You have to leave the area. You can no longer speak with people. And Pastor Manneke just knew he had a First Amendment right to share his views. And so he wasn't just willing to walk away. He tried to reason with the police officers, but they arrested him.
Yeah, it's essentially the heckler's veto, right? They don't want him there. He has to go. He's not welcome there, which totally disregards, in the way you're describing it, his free speech rights, religious liberty rights. I mean, we don't have to love the speech that we're hearing all the time. So from the perspective of those protesters, they didn't need to like what they were hearing, but he had a right, it sounds like, to be there. And it doesn't just sound that way. There's a legal remedy to this. Talk a little bit about what was found in court and where things stand now in terms of his victory.
Yeah, that's correct. It's a heckler's veto, which essentially it means exactly the way it sounds. Is that you cannot allow the heckler of a speech to be able to censor or shut down that speech. It's a doctrine that has long been recognized by the U.S. Supreme Court, and regrettably, it was just not recognized by the Seattle Police Department. And so we brought suit, and regrettably, we lost at the district court level. The district judge ruled against us. We brought a motion for a preliminary injunction, basically asking the court for relief because Pastor Manneke wanted to go out again. He has this burden to share the gospel, and he really was wanting relief as soon as possible. That was denied. So he took that ruling to the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. And before a three-judge panel, it was unanimous. They reversed the court below. They held exactly the way you described it. They said this is a heckler's veto. It's unconstitutional, and said that, and they gave instructions to the district court to give him the preliminary injunction he was seeking. So that really then left, okay, what do we do with the remainder of the case? And the city at that point saw the writing on the wall. The Ninth Circuit had ruled, they held this as a heckler's veto, and at that point we're able to enter into a consent order, which gave not just preliminary relief, but permanent relief for Pastor Meineke so that he can go back to the streets of Seattle and share the good news.
So final question for you as we look at this, what happens next in terms of the police and their policies? Will it change? Is there any sort of control that this case has or sway over those policies?
Most definitely. And I think in a couple different respects. One is certainly with this particular policy, with this heckler's veto, which they had in essence made part of police policy, that is no longer there. They are enjoined. They cannot do it. If so, that they'll be answerable to the court. And also, I think there's also another benefit of this ruling, and that is the police have been put on notice that if someone is peaceably speaking, you need to acknowledge those rights. You need to allow them to go forth with their First Amendment freedoms, just like anyone else.
Well, I want to thank you for breaking this story down. It's definitely an important one whenever there's a free speech battle, particularly a religious liberty one like this. So I appreciate your time today.
Oh, thank you, Billy. It's my pleasure.
When reached by CBN News, the Seattle police declined to comment. We'll be back in just a moment with more Newsmakers. Welcome back to Newsmakers. Next up, a Vermont Christian school is fighting back after being kicked out of a state-sponsored athletic league. This comes after its girls' basketball team declined to play against a team that had a biological male on it. Ryan Tucker, a lawyer with the Alliance Defending Freedom, joins us to discuss how Mid-Vermont Christian School is fighting back, what it means, and what's to come. Let's welcome him here to Newsmakers. We have two cases we're going to be talking about today that are incredibly important cases, both different but also overlapping in some ways, dealing with religious liberty. The first involves Mid-Vermont Christian School. Now, the school's basketball team, they chose last year to forfeit a game when they were forced to play against a biological male on the other team. Can you take us through what happened?
Sure. Well, the Mid-Vermont Christian girls basketball team qualified for their state-sponsored sports league playoff tournament. And when they were looking at the seedings, they knew that the team that they were paired up against had a biological male who was professing to be female on the other side. And so the school reached out in advance of that, even actually before the seeding was made, and asked the State Sports Association, hey, what can we do about this? We have concerns over playing against a biological male, not just the safety and fairness aspect, but more importantly, the religious aspect. They believe that boys are boys and girls are girls, and that's the message that they instill and inculcate at their institution, at their school. And the state-sponsored sports league said no. And the school said, well, unfortunately, we're going to have to forfeit. So they forfeited the game. And as a result, the state punished them by kicking them not just obviously out of that tournament, but out of the sports association entirely. And so their girls' sports season ended, and they've been kicked out of that league, not just in girls' sports, but also in other sports as well. And they've been kicked out for several months now.
Well, yeah, and that's the core here, right? A lot of times when this issue is talked about, we're talking about safety of girls and in girls' sports, and that's something that came up in this case. But there's also the religious liberty aspect of this, as you are detailing here, that is incredibly important. Last year, U.S. District Court Judge Jeffrey Crawford dismissed the case when there was a challenge to this. And by the way, just to note this, and correct me if I'm wrong, and we'll talk about that in a moment, but the school tried to remedy this before going the legal route. They filed an appeal internally there with the league, correct?
That's right. That's right. They tried to remedy it before the game, before the forfeiture. They also tried to remedy it after they were kicked out. They went back to the VPA, the Vermont Principals Association, which is the sports league, several times, asking them to reconsider and to think through what they've done before they went and filed a federal lawsuit. And as you noted, the judge actually denied our request for injunctive relief. And so we've taken that denial up to the Second Circuit, the Court of Appeals that oversees cases that flow from the state of Vermont. And we're in the middle of briefing the case right now.
So you mentioned this before, but let's just talk about why this is important to everyone, not just Christian schools, right? The ability for a private school to live out its values, to operate, and especially after 25 years in a league, right? It's not as though they joined the year before and they were, it'd still be an issue legally, and they were booted out. But there's a long history there. But why is this an important case for everyone, not just a Christian school?
Yeah, we're seeing this across the nation. We see it in the Title IX context. ADF has filed several lawsuits pushing back on attempts by the Biden administration to force these issues, not just in the obviously in the religious school space, but in the public school space. We're seeing quite a bit of it. But in the religious school space, Mid-Vermont strives to exemplify biblical truth, and in and through everything it does. The school won't be complicit in propagating a falsity, so the school can't, facilitate events that undermine its beliefs about sex and gender. And other schools across the U.S. Feel likewise. They have the same philosophy when it comes to issues of sexuality. And so if a state like Vermont's able to kick out a great school like this, which, by the way, had done quite well in basketball over the years, competing at the highest of levels, in state tournaments. If a state's able to do that here, there's great concern that other states might follow suit. And so the district court in this instance did not see it the way we did and actually dismissed the lawsuit. So we are currently at the Ninth Circuit. But what's great about our situation right now is we asked the Ninth Circuit for emergency relief and said, look, all these at-risk youth are being punished unnecessarily by the state. Will you order the state to reinstitute this grant that's damaging, the lives of these kids? And fortunately, on an emergency motion, the Ninth Circuit granted that. So right now, we were able to get back into the program. That doesn't dismiss the entire case. We're still on the throes of briefing the case, and it actually will be argued this November, just right before Thanksgiving.
Let's say that money hadn't been granted, temporarily, at least that $400,000. How would that, obviously there's some implicit details based on what we've talked about here, but how many kids would that have impacted? How would that have impacted their ministry to lose that amount of money?
Well, scores up. This is a program, like I said, it's been around for 60 plus years, helping the kids in the community. So just to give a hands-on, example, they provide vocational training. They provide free housing to students who need it. This program gives kids hope and a future, as well as a safe place to spend at night. And when you don't have the right financial resources to do it, if you're not able to hire people to fill those voids, then the kids are going to be the ones that they get punished as a result.
Well, we're going to continue to track both of these stories as they unfold and as new developments come. Ryan, appreciate your time today.
Thank you so much.
We'll continue to cover Mid-Vermont Christian Schools' legal battle as it unfolds. This is Newsmakers on the CBN News Channel. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Newsmakers on the CBN News Channel. For our final segment today, we are sitting down with legendary voice actor Jodi Benson. Jodi is the voice of Ariel in The Little Mermaid, but she's also a lifelong Christian with a deep passion for her faith. Let's welcome Jodi to Newsmakers. So the Wingfeather Saga Season 2, this is really exciting. What can you tell us? What can you preview for us in this new season of the show?
Well, it is very different than season one. There is a lot of adventure. There is a lot of conflict. It can create a little bit of stress and anxiety watching the new episodes, but it is fantastic. And I'm really, really proud of our season 2.
You know, you have done, I mean, obviously so much in this space and in Hollywood, obviously from Ariel and The Little Mermaid down the line, you've done so much. You know, what goes into your decision to take a role like this? You know, what sort of factors play into it? Because I would imagine you're a person of faith. I would imagine there's a lot of things that go into your decisions.
Yeah, there are. And it's been an incredible journey for me for, over 40 plus years of being in the industry. So who I am as a person has been established, and there are no surprises with that, which is really wonderful. And I do have the opportunity to read scripts, to delve into these various characters and make these decisions according to what I think is going to be best, for me and for my family. So I feel really loved and respected by my agents as well as by the people that I'm auditioning for. That they're really kind to me as I'm sort of, making these types of decisions. But once I pray about it, and my husband and I are both praying and both are discussing, we will get an automatic door open or close. And it's pretty clear cut. There is not a lot of in between, which I love. I love that. So when this project came up, it was just an open door all the way. And I really loved this character and these stories and being a part of it, because there's so much adventure to it. And, we got a little bit of everything going on. And then being able to sing in season 1 for my character was a lovely surprise. I didn't know that was going to happen. And so Andrew Peterson had written this gorgeous song that he had recorded with his daughters years before. So it was fun to be able to bring this song into season 1 and just had this sort of anthem, which I loved.
I want to ask you a Hollywood question because it is so interesting. As you know, for me, I'm constantly covering different projects in Hollywood and what's going on. But one of the things in the last 2 years in particular that I have found so fascinating, even in this last year, seeing so many people in Hollywood talk about faith and seeing faith just emerge in so many intriguing ways, both in projects and in people's lives. Do you have any reflections on that? Because it seems like God is kind of doing something in that space.
Well, again, I've been part of the industry for a very long time. So there are definitely rises and falls within people's faith walk for all of us. Since the pandemic, there has been a huge shakeup for a lot of people. And I think also in the industry, we went through a double whammy. So we went through the pandemic shutdown, and then we went through a huge strike as a shutdown. So we got hit twice. And those types of events that are out of our control, of course, can be very shaking. And they can really sift us, and they can kind of refine us and put us through the fire. And so I feel like that has happened to a lot of people, where they're getting to the point where we can be inclusive, we can be loving, we can be kind, we can remove judgment. And so there is a little bit more freedom, I think, for people to be able to use their voice and speak out. But we're in a difficult season. We really are. Yeah, I think for people in the industry. So we're going to see this kind of roller coaster going on. People can feel like they can speak out, but then, they're going to possibly get hit with cancel culture. And that can be earth shaking. You can lose your job. You can lose your paycheck. You can lose your film, your television, your agency, and your manager all in one day.
And it happens. I mean, it happens. And,
a lot.
There are sort of two categories of it. When you make a mistake and you really say something that you shouldn't have, that was wrong, right? And then I think more often than not, it's more, you've maybe said something that isn't popular, or you've said something, you've shared something that you believe to be true and people don't like it. And those are very different things. And your posture of waking up, loving others, doing all of those things, that keeps you in that straight and narrow. But have you had those same fears even in your own career in Hollywood?
Well, let me tell you, Billy, I have haters every day. I have
Really
that hate me.
You're so kind, though. I can't picture that. I mean, you're so nice.
Well, that's very sweet. But I'm working in a situation right now where there is a group of people that I'm working with that truly do not like me and will walk the other way, will avoid me at all costs, because my joy and my smile or my hello just annoys the heck out of them. So when you're dealing with light versus dark, there's nothing you can do, but I'm certainly not going to change my personality. My hope is that I can pray for those that hate me and wish ill upon me and my family. That's not easy. It's not easy, but it is what I have to do, because the alternative is just going to plant a root of bitterness and anger and hatred in me that I don't want to take root in my heart. I'm not going to change who I am because of how somebody mistreats me. So I have to make a conscious decision. So my encouragement would be to pray and ask God to help you love your enemies. Now, I don't love my enemies. I don't. I pray for them, but I don't have a lot of love for them. But I can pray, and that can start to change my heart.
Well, I love that. And it's such a great place for us to close on such a positive note there on what we can do. It's the Wing Feather Saga Season 2. Jody, appreciate your time as always.
Well, thank you, Billy. It's been a pleasure to chat with you today. And thank you to all of your viewers and your listeners. I really appreciate your support.
Let's be praying for Jody and other Christians who are using their talents in Hollywood. We'll be right back with more Newsmakers in just a moment. That's all for Newsmakers. Thank you for watching, and be sure to head over to the CBN News YouTube channel. That's where you'll find the full interviews you saw on today's episode. Plus, you can check out our new daily Newsmakers podcast. We feature one full interview every single day. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. As for this show, we'll see you again next week.